Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5. And if I am not mistaken, episode number 761 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Do. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, October 14th, 2025. And it's a great day here at the Beaver Lodge and a little cool too. I'm the Eager Beaver. I was going to say my name is. I am the Eager Beaver and pronouns he, him. And I forgot. See, I threw myself off of my intro. It's gonna be one of these days already, I can tell. Uh, uh, I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. It's election day in Newfoundland and Labrador, kids and cubs, so we will be focusing on that today, looking at a few things going on there, particularly the debate that recently happened. How is your mental health today, kids and cubs? I am doing relatively well, and I just realized I forgot to top off with water, so there's only a little bit in my cup. I'll have to go make a dash for it during a clip. Um, I'm doing well overall. A little tired, but that's my fault. Yesterday because I got to bed late. Just I needed to. Uh, we still had company for the beginning part of the day, and then of course we had a rehearsal. And normally on Mondays we only have about a 2-hour rehearsal, but given that we didn't have one on Sunday, they asked who could come in earlier. So we had a 4-hour rehearsal yesterday. So from 4:30 till about, and it went to a little bit over. So from about 4:30. No, actually, yesterday it was the day before it went over. So 4:30 till about 8:30, uh, and then you tear down a little bit as well because on the weekends, on the first day we can just leave the stuff there, but on the weekend, when the weekend's over, we have to tear down because we're rehearsing in the gym of a school, and well, that's still the gym for the students, right? So we can't leave our sets there. So we had to took a little time to dismantle stuff because as we're now 5 weeks before opening. So now we're starting to have some of the set pieces and the props being brought in so that we can move them around for the transition. So there's more to put away. In the first few weeks, there's just only chairs to take out and put away. So, but yeah, by the time I got home, it was a little later. By the time I got home, it was pretty much close to what my bedtime would normally be. And then of course I had to prepare the show. So, because I couldn't get it done earlier during the day. So yeah, a little bit my fault. And tonight's going to be the same thing because it's well, curling has started again. Tonight is one of these dreaded 9:20 p.m. matches, so the match will be started when I'm considering getting into my jammies. So, so yeah, fortunately, I don't have much other than just the work day. I don't have much going on in between, so I'll be able to have a nap when once the work day is over, and be able to rest for curling. So hopefully everything will be fine. But yeah, my schedule's just a tiny bit off, but in great spirits because we had a beautiful weekend with family, and I hope you did too. And rehearsals are going very, very well. And yesterday, I got taken out of our singing portion for a little bit for about 25, 30 minutes with someone who I'm going to be doing some partner work in a dance section in which we're sort of going to be featured a little bit, which is nice. So it's nice to know that there's going to be um, our director is very good. She's trying to give absolutely everybody in the show at some point, even if you're ensemble and don't have any lines whatsoever, a moment or two to shine here and there. And this will be one. Uh, for me on this one. So I'm pretty happy and it's going to be fun. Plus, I get to do a tiny little lift, which is kind of fun because I love doing lifts as a dancer. So yay! Might be the only lift of the show too, if I remember correctly. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's not an overhead one though. So but it's not it still will be a nice little touch, a nice little flair that hopefully will make the audience go ooh a little bit in the moment. So I'm pretty chuffed about that. And yeah, good mood all around. I've got a little bit of tennis scheduled for today, which is nice as well. And yeah, and then just work, 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 and then a nap, and then some curling. So a beautiful day ahead of me, and I hope you have one ahead of you too. And hopefully, not too much cleaning to do after a big feast. And don't worry, I don't judge. Don't judge. Nope, not at all, because I'm guilty of, overindulging a little bit too over the course of the weekend. All right, let's take a little look in here, and, who do we have? We have Kit Elaine here, and we have Kit Sharon, who's joining us this morning. I read in the chat yesterday that you recently took possession of your new house. Was it or that you were a couple of days from it? I'm not sure, but, yeah. Nice to see you in the chat again. You were missed, but you were thought about a lot and talked about a lot. So hopefully you felt our good vibes. Kid Bucky is here, and apparently somebody is talking about stuffing balls. You can't put that stuff in the chat, damn fam. Not with my dirty mind. You can't do that. But it's food. It's food. We have Mr. Jim with us. We have Kit Linda with us as well. We have, let's see, yes, Kit Linda, indeed. Kit playing with 3D is with us this morning. Yay! We have Kit ill today. Hope you are feeling well. Sending you big hugs. We have the Breens with us as well. Good morning to both of you. Kit Linda M, loving my sartorial choices today. Yes, it is a little bit. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay today. Uh, I like it. Let's see. Love the Canadian look, says Sharon Stevens. Yeah, every now and then. Uh, g- Getting in on my Halloween a little early. But still, Halloween costume that you can wear out on the street and still be stylish. Yes. All right, let's see. Mr. Jim. Oh, look, the beaver's out looking for wood. I love this. I love it when you play along. Thanks, kids. We have Kit Donna with us saying, good early morning, damn fam. Nice hoser outfit there, Mr. Beaver. Yay. Kit Tabby G, you lift us up every morning, Douglas. Oh, thank you. What a sweet thing to say. Thank you for putting some sunshine in my day. That's a lovely compliment. Oh, you guys, y'all are so good to me. Really. Big kisses. I love you guys. Um, Kit Mohan is with us. Good morning to you and family. Yes, Kit Sharon confirms October 9th took possession of her home. Ah, good. Maybe I think next Friday, if I'm not mistaken, I might have some free time, and maybe we can do a DAMFAM uh, get together virtual housewarming for Sharon to celebrate the home. Maybe putting the idea out there. Let us know in the chat what you think. That could be fun. All right, we have Kit Kat here, also loving the look today. I should have done this earlier earlier ago. Kit Uncover with the Beaver Dad joke. What did the beaver say to his sweetie? You're sorry, let me get that right. You're unbeaverleavably cute. I like that. That is so good. I like that. 25 beaver points for that. That was clever. I like that. Okay, let's see us, and that's everybody. That's everybody. Oh, and Kit Sharon goes, "Ooh, I am in for the house party." All right, the housewarming party. Sorry. So, okay, I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. I might be in Ottawa. I'm not sure if where I will be Friday night. Oh, by the way, kids and cubs, I got some fantastic news the other day. Hopefully, let's see. I can bring this up for you because I didn't have it pre-planned. I was just thinking of it now. There is a person who's a friend of the Beaver Lodge with whom we had an interview recently, who wrote to me yesterday and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Ottawa." And I thought, how cool is that? And I thought I would share it with you, kids and cubs, in case you're from the National Capital Region and would like to have an opportunity to see, kids and cubs, Miss Tony Veer perform live. If you remember, Tony Veer is the person we had an interview with and who had written the campaign song. Well, had written a song inspired by Bonnie Critchley, which Bonnie Critchley's team heard, and then they phoned her and they made that officially their campaign song. And then Bonnie and Tony met and all that good stuff. So Tony Veer is coming to Ottawa for something called Folk Canada. And she will have an event that's called In the Round with Jenny Allen and Matt Pattershuk. So I'm going to guess that might be a bit of a conversation with a song or two from noon to 12:55 on Sunday, October 19th in room 504, the Alberta room. And I don't know where exactly this is going to be taking place in Ottawa, but hopefully I can go and look at the website later on, give you more information. And then later on in room 506, which is called the Alberta room as well, she'll be doing a solo concert on the same day. And here it says 1:40 to 1:55 a.m. I'm gonna guess that these are probably not the correct times because I doubt very much there's going to be a concert at a trade show at 1:40 to 1:55 a.m. But I will go and take a look at the website and get more precise information for you. But yes, she's coming to something I guess called Folk Canada on Sunday, October 19th. So I am going to. I won't be able to see her perform live, unfortunately, but I will be able to go down, I think, to Ottawa Beaver Lodge sometime during the weekdays so I can meet Tony in person, shake her hand, perhaps break some bread, and get to meet a friend of the Beaver Lodge in person. So, anyway, kids and cubs, I will attempt to get more information a little bit later that's more precise and put it into the show. But Tony Veer, if you happen to be living in the National Capital Region, she will be there and you'll have a chance to see her perform and to meet her. And I just think that that's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, there we go. Some kids in the chat are celebrating here, going, oh, cool. Good for her. There we go. And okay, let's see. Kid Donna, my hubby would like to know from where the picture of Kingston was taken that you used her as your backdrop. I don't know exactly from where it would have been taken, but it is the back of City Hall in Market Square, taken from a certain elevation. I don't know from where it would have been taken. Maybe I know that there's a very tall apartment building near the corner of Prince and Division, and if there's a way to get on that rooftop, it might have been taken from there, possibly. Um, but yeah, I actually don't know, to be totally honest. But it is definitely from the downtown, looking towards the lake, as you can see in the back there direction. But that's all. That's about the best I can do for you, unfortunately. But yeah, I do love that picture. It is a really nice one. Okay, kits and cubs. Well, it is election day on the rock. And as you know, kits and cubs, uh, kits do not allow other kits to do democracy alone. So I hope that you have planned your vote. I hope that you are bringing friends along with you to the polling station. And I hope that you are going to the polls enthusiastically and uh, and ready to do your duty. And if you are working at a polling station today, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for doing your bit to help democracy function smoothly and to help your neighbors um, perform their civic duty. So thank you very much. Uh, if I am not mistaken, because of time zone differences, I'm it's 8:30 already in Newfoundland. No, 8:30, 9 o'clock already in Newfoundland. I believe so, and I think that would mean that polls are already open, if I am not mistaken. Let's see, what are the hours of polling on election day? The hours of polling, well, on polling day, are from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., half an hour earlier in most of Labrador. So there you go. If I'm not mistaken, polls are already open and people are already voting. So there you go. Democracy is happening right now, kids and cubs, as we are listening to the show, as we are making this show. So, everyone, I hope that it's going to be a great election. I hope turnout is going to be good. Now before we get into the provincial one, as you know, when we last did a focus on Newfoundland and Labrador show, we talked about the municipal elections that took place in Newfoundland and Labrador, but there was um, one city in which the elections did not take place because they were delayed due to the Canada Post strike. And that's, of course, in the capital, St. John's. And that voting day was delayed until October 8th. And we promised that we would come back and take a look at what happened there. And according to Jenna Head of CBC News, longtime Mayor Danny Breen is heading back to the council chambers for another 4 years as the head of City of St. John's, according to the city's election results website. Breen won by 3,613 votes in Wednesday's municipal election. Breen beat St. John's business owner Ivy Hanley, who received 42.26% of the mayoral vote. He has served on council since 2009 and as mayor for the past 8 years, guiding the city through infrastructure upgrades, business development, and as host of the Canada Summer Games in August, which was a bit of a challenge due to the wildfires. But as we reported on the show, great volunteers moved mountains and earth in order to ensure that the young people who had showed up to compete were able to have the best competition possible despite the circumstances. And that is to the credit of the wonderful people of the area. While Breen is a familiar face for St. John's, the council has five new faces. Former Ward 5 councillor Carl Ridgely conceded on social media shortly after 10 p.m. Newfoundland time and before the results were announced. Quote, "Thanks for the last 4 years and congratulations to all the winners," Ridgely wrote on Facebook. "Good luck to all in the next 4 years." Donnie Earl received 59.16% of the vote versus Ridgely as his only opponent. And here's a breakdown of the results. Danny Breen was re-elected as mayor. Ron Ellsworth was re-elected as deputy mayor. Kate Cadigan was elected as councillor at large. Sandy Hickman was re-elected as councillor at large. Len Hammond elected as councillor at large, as was Nikita Ryal. Jill Bruce was acclaimed to represent Ward 1. Brenda Halley, Ward 2. Greg Noseworthy, acclaimed for Ward 3. Tom Davis, re-elected in Ward 4, and Donnie Earl, as mentioned earlier, in Ward 5, was elected. and that is your council in St. John's after a little bit of a delayed vote. I'm going to look at VOCM local news as well to see if there's a little bit more in there, and there is not. So I believe that that's the best I've got for you here. So there we go. That's all the results from the municipal elections in Newfoundland and Labrador. And hopefully, um, I'm not sure what I had heard somewhere on the news that I think it was Tim Powers, the pundit that you would often see on Power and Politics, was doing a podcast, I believe, with Eric Grenier called The Numbers, looking into the uh, the provincial election a little bit, and they were talking about the municipal election on the side. And it would seem that turnout, unfortunately, was rather low, which is unfortunate, but in one way understandable given the change of date at the last second. But it's still, um, yeah, I always prefer a higher turnout. And I'm just looking here at the results page, and the results page has the results for each of the races, but is not indicating the turnout here, at least at the St. John's City website. All right. But yes, I had heard something like 32%, but I haven't been able to personally corroborate it myself. So I hope it was more, and I certainly hope it is more for the provincial election. I hope there isn't election fatigue going on, because having municipal elections and provincial elections within a month is relatively rare. So it just must have been an interesting way that the schedules worked in order to create this situation over time, right? Okay, let's. Yes, I see some kits here uh, uh, commenting about Donald Trump ranting for not having won the Nobel Peace Prize. And actually, my first thought was, okay, cue 50% tariffs on Norway in three, two. uh, the thing is, I think the thing that Team Trump might have underestimated on that one is that the best way, the best way to guarantee one will never, ever, ever win a Nobel Peace Prize is to openly campaign for a Nobel Peace Prize. Because then you can always sit around the table and say, well, this guy didn't do this out of a genuine love or desire for peace. He just wants a prize. And if you do a good thing for the wrong reason, I believe the way that the quote goes, that is the ultimate treason. So, um, yeah, no Nobel Prize for Donnie this year. And oh well. But, if this ceasefire thing actually does hold, uh, given that Nobel tends to award for the previous year, um, he actually literally could be somewhat legitimately in the running for next year's, which is very weird to say. Although I've already been reading a couple of articles, stating how some people are pulling back on some previous commitments, or maybe not expressing some desires to maybe not completely follow through or anything. So there's a lot of people out there already. Michelle Rempel Garner. There was a tweet that of Donald Trump shaking Benjamin Netanyahu's hand, and it was written "peace, peace by strength" or something like that. Peace through strength. And then Michelle Rempel Garner quoted the tweet, yes, and then wrote "peace through strength," like the exact same thing that was in the tweet above it that she was quoting. She wrote to put in her own tweet, and it's sort of like, okay, then you could have just forwarded the tweet. You didn't have to add a comment if you're just repeating. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to them. watching these things and listening to all the celebrations and and like hostages that came home and all that kind of stuff. That's very good. All the hostages that are alive came home, and I believe there's a certain number of the hostages that have unfortunately passed that have been returned, but not all of them because well, Hamas says it's going to take them a little while to locate them. They're concerned, well concerned. Um, there is allegations or claims that some of them may be caught under some rubble or stuff like that, and they might be a little harder to may take a little more time to get them. So not everybody has been returned yet. Um, but yeah, um, all these everybody's celebrating like peace has arrived. Oh, we've got peace. We've got peace. It's like no, you've got a ceasefire and return of some prisoners and returns of some bodies. We are a far, 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 far away from being able to claim that we have peace. So far, we have an interruption in hostilities. That's all we've got right now. Uh, Peace happens when it lasts. And I'm still at the point where I'm going to believe this only when it lasts. So there's a lot. Listen, I understand being happy that hostilities have ceased. I understand being happy that people today might not be dying as a result of this war. I am ecstatic that hopefully there will be much more humanitarian assistance. So that famine that is going on can have an end. And but but um, claiming that peace has been achieved already is rather premature. Sending all my good wishes, and I definitely hope that this holds. I want this to hold, but we're it's not peace yet, right? There's a lot of people that just want to look at a 1 day thing and then rush and say, he made peace happen and we've got peace now and now we're done with this. No, 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 no. No. This is the beginning of the beginning of the it's the beginning of an end and not even the beginning of what comes next, right? So let's hope that we have a good start. Let's hope that the this there's enough days to this new start to start a trend. Let's hope that the trend is our friend, and let's hope it continues well, well, well into the future, even permanently. That would be nice. It would be nice to go a few years, a decade more without ever having to have to report that there was a bombing or some type of attack or anywhere in that entire region. Everybody there suffered enough, more than enough. But again, right? Just like Shrub 2 stood on that aircraft carrier with that spanner that said mission accomplished and everybody celebrated. And then we realized mission was not accomplished, right? It was- we have a cessation in hostilities. We do not yet have peace. All right. Uh, a little aside there. Um, Now, kids and cubs, let's get into that provincial election stuff. Uh, as we mentioned, today is voting day. Wednesday, I believe, was the debate. I think it was about, in Newfoundland and Labrador. It didn't get that much attention. In fact, I had heard about the debate happening only about like a day or two before it did normally. I that was my bad that I didn't go looking for the date earlier on to be able to report it. I didn't even get to mention on the show that it was happening. Um, but yeah, the debate was scheduled, and about the only thing I heard again was again from Tim Power, and was not impressed with it all that much. Um, lack of fire, lack of passion, lack of whatever, lack of a moment, for all intents and purposes. Um, I always take those comments now with a little bit more of a grain of salt, and that is probably because I am a political junkie, and I see moments where if you're just watching, sitting down, and if you're watching it for entertainment or just pure information, but let's say you want to be informed and you would like to be entertained a little, you wouldn't like the debate to be watching like paint drying on a wall, um, or engaging. I shouldn't say more engaging than entertaining. Um, some people will just turn around and dismiss the debate, but uh, debates, while you hope they're engaging, or you hope more than that they are informative. And some people can give you a lot of details and insight into their plans and policies without necessarily being engaging. So, I mean, you can still get the information that you're coming for. Um, it just may not, uh, you might have trouble staying awake while it's happening. Um, I personally didn't find it that bad. Okay. Um, it it wasn't compelling television by any stretch of the imagination, but there was some back and forth, and there was some parrying, there was some thrusts, and you can see there was some positioning. There was some moments where people got tried to go on the attack a little bit politely ish, uh, but you could see, okay, somebody's taking a swing here, but it wasn't, again, the sort of media uh, standard. Was there a knockout punch? And it's like, or was there a Mulroney Turner? You had a choice, sir. Moment. No, there wasn't. But that doesn't mean it wasn't a good debate. I not knowing much about the other two leaders, and knowing a little bit about John Hogan, because as interim leader and with everything going on since Mark Carney has become prime minister, all the meetings with premiers and whatnot, Mr. Hogan has had a couple of times to gain a little bit of national profile at the same time. And but I didn't know any of the other two leaders, so it was my first time to get an impression of them. And I have to say that for the lack of dynamism in the debate itself, looking at three personalities, the three people there, how they conducted themselves, what they said, the policies that they stood for, um, Newfoundland and Labrador has given themselves some pretty good choice. I have to say, I can honestly say I was impressed with all three leaders on the debate stage. And that, yes, even the conservative one. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and if there's anybody from Newfoundland and Labrador or in the area in the chat, I believe in Newfoundland and Labrador, it is still a progressive conservative party at the provincial level and not just a conservative party. And hopefully, somebody will be able to confirm that for me, because, or I will take a look at it during the time that one of the clips are running. And you could tell if that is the case, you could tell by the leader, Mr. Wakeham, who's the leader of the conservative faction in Newfoundland and Labrador. Um, I was ready for the typical, conservative lines that you get, and I was ready for them. Um, to be delivered with some fire and some gusto. I'm thinking, is it John Crosby? Am I thinking? Yeah. For those of you who are of a certain vintage, back in the days when Jean Chrétien was the prime minister, uh, Mr. Crosby and Sheila Copps got into it a couple of times, and I think he had called her. It's something with a tequila Sheila and called her baby or something like that. And she stood up. She says, "I'm nobody's baby." As one of these iconic moments in House of Commons. If you're anywhere a political junkie, you probably stumbled across that moment at one time. So yeah, I was expecting a little bit of that, and while there were a couple of moments where you could see some like conservative style branding when they were talking about the Churchill Falls deal and that kind of stuff for hydroelectricity, he kept on referring it to as the secret deal with Quebec. Ooh, so that was like but that was about like the most Pierre-ish he ever got. Um, he seems like a very warm, very sincere man, has a bit of a background in healthcare, and, would talk about certain issues with compassion. There was a moment, and hopefully we might be able to present it to you, where they were talking about a poverty reduction program that existed in Newfoundland and Labrador that had been started by a provincial conservative government or PC government. And the NDP candidate, Mr. Dinn, was commenting about that and, saying, giving credit where it's due. The conservatives started that, so it's not, it wasn't we hate all social programs and we don't want to take care of anyone. I didn't hear any moment of homophobia, transphobia, um, railing against immigrants, that type of stuff in the debate, which was very refreshing. So, and he has a bit of a warm and engaging voice, and even though very calm, uh, you know, a good presence overall. I was impressed with Mr. Wakeham, I have to say. Also impressed with Mr. Dinn, who's the leader of the NDP. Not the most um, compelling speaker, however, raises a lot of good points, brings a lot of substance, as is often the case with an NDP representative, and was really good at. Uh, Sticking to core kitchen table issues and the quality of life issues and not veering too far outside of that. So, sticking with the message that is most likely to resonate and appeal to the greater number of people rather than speaking solely to his base or to a particular wing of the NDP base. So a good overall general performance showing that he had thought about stuff for everyone, and not just fishing for the base. So trying to compete for uh, to be a full provincial government. Really trying to compete rather than just trying to win a couple of seats here and there. I like what he brought to the table. Like I said, presentation skills might affect people when you perceive somebody speaking might affect people's ability to believe in the confidence that the person has in their ideas or their competence to execute them given presentation. But the ideas themselves were well presented and well discussed, well fleshed out as much as they can be in this debate. And he showed that he had a good grasp of things and was able to often connect some dots, which is nice in a debate where you don't just mention a policy, but you can connect a few policies together and see how they stand together as a whole throughout the course of the evening. And then you had the interim premier, Mr. Hogan, who was very, very no, not polished. How would I put it? Because polished can have a negative connotation. Poised, very poised throughout the evening. Had a lot to say, which was good. When you are the leader, you're it's tougher in a debate in the sense that not only do you have to fend off attacks based on what you have done, and often when you're asked a question, uh, you're mentioning what you have already done to try to get some credit, and then also talking about what you will do whereas the other two, just have to talk about what it is that they will do, or or maybe launch an attack of some kind, or point out some contrast. Um, there's some time often the leader spends a lot of time talking. Well, this is why we did this, and we plan to do that. So you get less time to hear about future plans because they all have the same time, but you get to hear a lot about what was done, uh, you know, and and accomplishments to date, and defending the record. But with all those tasks in hand, he seemed up to the task, handled himself very well. Like I said, maintained poise, had a couple of moments where he too was able to be a little bit more firm, and point out some contrast of his own. And as we know, as we've talked about on the show previously, because of his background legally, um, uh, for him, he believes that it's the right time for me to be premier, and he's the right man at the right time, given that we are getting to the more final stages, the more precise details of the negotiations with regard to those electricity deals with Gull Island and the Churchill River, Upper Churchill River. Uh, so he's the one that really wants to bring this one across the home plate. Believes he's the right man at the right time, a little bit like Mark Carney believed he was the right man at the right time for this particular moment. So a little bit of that similar vibe. Um, so all of them, uh, the people of Newfoundland and Labrador have some pretty good choices. They have a I won't go so far as saying an embarrassment of riches, but you have 3 good candidates who really do seem to be connected, uh, to, the province, that seem to be connected to the people, who, seem to very much care genuinely in their heart about the issues. I did not get the sense from any of the candidates that they were putting anything on or being insincere. Again, especially the Conservative candidate, because I tend to be a little more cynical, and I was waiting, and to see, okay, there it is. There's a moment. There's the mask falling, and no, Mr. Wakeham was pretty much consistent throughout the entire evening. We might have some positions on certain things that we don't agree upon, but he wasn't extreme in any way, shape, or form, and did seem, like I said, to have some social conscience and a belief that social programs can work and are a good thing, and that there is a role for government, as opposed to being the party that runs for government so that they can try to eliminate government, right? So, yeah, all in all, very, very good, um, uh, very good content overall for that debate. And in that sense, I liked it. I liked it. I'm not the type that needs fireworks. Fireworks are fun, all that kind of stuff. But I'm here for the policy, and I'm here to see how you interact on stage with other people, and I'm here to see how you can defend points. We know when you are challenged and when you are pressed. Looking for all those skills, and try to get a sense of the person itself, and how they would be if they were doing the job, how they would interact with press, how they would interact with their peers from other parties, how they would interact with their own party, with the front bench and the back bench, and you know, um, and there are certain things, that you can tell. Or certain signs, like one of those things they keep on saying when you go out on a date and the person that you're on a date with is not particularly nice to the staff at the restaurant that is providing service. That's usually a sign that you probably should not have a second date. Right? So there were things that some people can do on a debate stage. I remember in the last federal debate where there was a person going around doing mic checks. It was a moment that was caught on camera and was shared online, but not shared during part of the debate itself. And the guy was going around to all the leaders and asking them to do a microphone test and all that kind of stuff. And every single one of the leaders looked up from their papers and interacted with the person that was there, in a friendly manner in some way, either like having like a little personal moment to chat or something, or at least just being gracious. And when it was Pierre's turn, he was looking at his papers like this, and yeah, basically, did what the person asked him to, but it was like writing and didn't look up from his page at any time. And there was like no warmth, no. It's sort of like you, uh, you can't. You can't bring me anything in my effort to want to be prime minister, so I've got no time for you, kind of vibe. Um, right? Now, of course, on the positive side, you could just turn around and, maybe he was just like nervous or really wanted to prepare and, let nothing distract you. And, that's fine too. But the way it came across with everybody else, taking a moment to show some warmth and to engage with somebody who was providing a service that would help them be heard, and one person who didn't really. So, and you can get an impression from that, and it can confirm all impressions that you already have of someone, or let you see them in a new light. So, oh, well, gee, that was a little rude, right? So, s- that type of thing, I also watch that in a debate, and to try to get an overall sense of some. Are there any, low blows? How respectful we are of the moderator, right? That type of stuff as well. All of that kind gets factored in. So for all three of them, top marks on that front, and that's why I was saying, there may have not been fireworks, but it seemed to be three quality people, um, who really do want the best for the province, sharing their various perspectives on how to get there, and establishing some contrast along the way, but nobody being vicious or mean about it. So overall, that would make me happy uh, if I saw that in debates regularly. So there you go. Uh, let's get into it and see what has been going on. Um, One of the certain policy planks that I was able to pick up on when I was listening to it, the Conservatives are talking about doing things like increasing the basic personal exemption on taxes to $15,000 for provincial income taxes, which would make it the highest in Atlantic Canada. Looking at things like increasing the seniors benefit by 20% and indexing it to inflation. Wants to invest in diagnostics by purchasing more MRI machines, particularly for Labrador, so people don't have to fly out uh, at great cost in order to be able to get a scan. Wants to hire more police officers. That's pretty typical for Conservative Party. Make home care part of healthcare. And again, when I heard the leader talk about that, I really did feel he was sincere about that. But again, he does come from a health background. And investing about $3 million more to put up more cell towers to ensure better coverage in emergency situations. As for example, as a result of the wildfires, there wasn't necessarily great coverage all over, and better coverage might be able to be more helpful if there is instructions to be given, particularly since it looks like these types of wildfires are going to become the new norm. For the Liberals, there was taken the provincial sales tax off everybody's power bills, and the leader says that that will make them about 10% less expensive than they were in the past. There was apparently uh, there are school supply fees, I guess, of some kind, and it says he was running on um, making it such that kids that are in classes from kindergarten to grade 6 would not have to pay for supplies, or the parents of children would not have to pay for school supplies. Supportive of school lunches, and wants to double both the aging at home grant to $800 a year and the caregiver benefit from $400 to $800 a month. And then for the NDP, some of the policy planks that I was able to pick up on was ending the practice of resorting to private agency nurses, paid internships for nursing, education, and social work students, um, increasing the amount of non-market community-based housing, because it seems that in Newfoundland and Labrador, the rate of that type of housing is only 0.3% of all housing, whereas the national average is about 4%. Um, so, and the OECD average is 7%. So there's not a lot in Newfoundland and Labrador at all. Also supports policies to help seniors stay in their own home as long as possible, and wants to increase the seniors benefit by a 25%. And finally, doubling with regards to wildfire, 'cause sometimes some communities get cut off in emergency situations, wanting to double the amount given to communities for them to grow their own food, which could be helpful in case they're cut off to 1,500, and increasing it for individuals as well. And I'm sure there were other policy planks as well. There was as I mentioned, a whole page on CBC News Interactive's uh, comparing what the parties have said on each issue. So, for example, on childcare, the Liberals have promised to open up hundreds of more $10 a day childcare spaces. Currently, there's about 11,200 across the province operating through the federal government's childcare agreement. The program is in place until March 31st, 2031. Education Minister Bernard Davis announced 574 childcare spaces are being created in the Avalon Peninsula and central regions of Newfoundland in August. The Progressive Conservative Party on childcare, uh, PC MHA Paul Dinn said affordable childcare remains out of reach for many in the province, pointing to childcare operators who want to open facilities but are delayed by government inaction. The leader, Wakeham, said if elected, a PC government would keep $10 a day childcare, improve the system without giving examples, and he said he'd remove red tape obstructing operators from operating. And the New Democratic Party said, leader Jim Dinn said that he would expand $10 a day childcare to more families and hire more early childhood educators while improving their working conditions. He said he would bring in paid sick leave and give ECEs pensions, which could attract more people to the sector. And I was listening to that portion of the debate, and he's making the point to the premier that yes, you can fund all those spaces. You can create more spaces all you want, but if you don't have people there who can work at them, and if the people who are working at them don't have the opportunity to build good careers, or have any type of way to be remunerated that also allows them to contribute to a healthy pension for when they come to retire, then you're going to have trouble attracting some of the top talent. Right. So there you go. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff here. There's on the CBC News Interactive's website. There's a portion on climate change and emergency preparedness, cost of living, economy, education, healthcare, housing, infrastructure, policy and community safety, and reconciliation. So if you haven't gone out to vote yet and want to take one last look at policies to compare before you make your decision today, I just put the address in the chat, and hopefully you can click on that. And if you're not Newfoundland and Labrador and you're still interested in what's going on in that part of the country, give it a click and see how the policies compare, because there might be some things that are proposed in this election that you might see and say, hey, that's a good idea. Why don't we do that in our province too? And maybe you can write a letter or start a petition. All right. Let's get into it. Uh, One of the moments of the debate, and one of the main issues of the campaign, at least, Premier Hogan would want it to be, is the whole, again, hydroelectric deal with the Upper Churchill River project and Gull Island and all that kind of stuff. And in this, there's two portions of the debate where this is being discussed. The first time, I believe, is specifically on the topic, and then the second one has to do with a another topic where um, the leaders maybe didn't follow the lead of the moderator in terms of answering the questions that were asked, but Churchill sort of came up again, and that was probably the first moment of the debate that had a little bit of fire, where there was some sparring that, and direct claims being made against other party leaders. That was like, okay, now we got something going on here. All right. Again, without it having sorry, got something stuck in my throat. Without anybody making a big scene, of course. So, all right, let's go to the first one here. I believe the timestamp is 11:47. So I'm just gonna go here. Maybe there we go. Hopefully I remember that right. No, I remember that incorrectly. It's 11:14. So let me just fix that for you right here. Okay. And now, kits and cubs, this about Churchill Falls, not Churchill Falls, the Upper Churchill River, and all the stuff going on down there. We've talked about this a few times on the show, particularly when the sort of initial memorandum of understanding on how things were going to go from now on was struck to big fanfare between François Legault and then Premier Fury.
Churchill River, Ben.
Thank you, Carolyn. Well, a former member of the Churchill Falls Independent Oversight Panel has called the MOU long, complex, and confusing. So my question is for you, Mr. Hogan. Why should people trust that this is a good deal when it's so hard to understand?
So he's not wrong. It is a complex deal. There's a lot of moving parts here, but I think what I've been trying to tell people over the past few weeks when I've been asked questions about it is really let's try and boil it down to what it is. We've been screaming since 1969 to get a new deal on the Upper Churchill River. We all know how unfair that deal is, and we all know how much money has been lost over the last 60, 70 years on this deal. We now have an opportunity at our fingertips to tear up this deal. People say wait till 2041. Two things happen if we wait till 2041. There might not be a deal on the table, and we will certainly not get the extra $17 billion between now and 2041. The other big point of this is that what's really upset Newfoundlanders and Labradorians is that the deal is not fair. We are not getting a fair price based on markets. And if you look at Schedule F in the MOU, which is a complicated document, there's very clear language in the schedule that any pricing that Hydro-Quebec gets out of this deal is based on market prices, and that will mean that they get more money and Newfoundland and Labrador will get more money as well. Schedule F, F is for fairness, and that's what Newfoundlanders and Labradorians deserve.
Ben?
Mr. Dinn, my next question is for you. What would you have to see to get on board with this Churchill Falls MOU?
Look, I was 10 years old when this first deal was signed. My granddaughter is going to be 10 years old when the next one is signed. And it's important to me that we get this right. So here's what I would like to see. One of the things that we definitely that we forced the Liberals into doing, along with the independents, was to set up an independent oversight committee. So I want to see that oversight, that independence and that transparency. And yet, we had a member of that team, of that oversight committee, step down. There is a resignation letter. He stepped down 3 days after Mr. Hogan was sworn in as Premier. So my question now is, because that was part of our deal for supporting the process, as to what happened. Release the I guess the letter of resignation in its full, and let's make sure that there has been no political interference, because from my point of view, there can be no partisan politics in this. We've made it clear from the beginning, and trying to be the adult in the room, that this is going to be based on its economic merits, its business merits.
Thank you, Mr. Dinn. I just want to interrupt you here and open it up for debate with Mr. Hogan.
So I actually agree with Mr. Dinn. This is not a political deal. This is not a Liberal deal. This is a Newfoundland and Labrador deal, and we absolutely do need to get it right. And the MOU is the backbone for an amazing opportunity for this province, the likes of which we haven't seen and we will never see again, so we do need to get it right. That's why this government opened up the House of Assembly, which had never been done before for any deal in our province's history, to allow the experts and the architects to be on the House floor to answer questions about the deal. It wasn't about questions to ministers, it wasn't about questions to the Premier of the day, it was the questions of the people who constructed the deal. And I commit to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador that the final agreements will also come to the House of Assembly. And not only that, if I'm Premier, my entire caucus will be given a free vote. It will not be about a whipped vote for Liberal members, because the most important thing is not about party politics. It is about getting this deal right, not only for us, but for generations of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to come. We owe them that.
Ben, back to you for a question from Mr. Wakeham.
Mr. Wakeham, you've promised to put the MOU to a public referendum. When would you do that? And how would you ensure that residents understand with full transparency the deal that you'd be asking them to vote on?
Absolutely. Let me start off first by saying we will develop Gull Island. We will develop Churchill Falls. But we will make sure that any deal we negotiate will be brought and before an independent review by an independent panel. That's what needs to happen. That's what was recommended when you think back to the inquiry we had. One of the key recommendations of that inquiry was to make sure that any agreements we were entering into, any mega projects, we were prepared to turn around and have them independently reviewed. That recommendation has not been followed. I don't understand why Mr. Hogan is afraid to do that. Is he afraid of Quebec? He talks about no deal coming. We have the power. Quebec has the need. We got to make sure that this is generational. This cannot be about simply doing it for election promises. It has to be about protecting the future of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, sending it to an independent review, and then allowing the people to have their say.
So Mr. Wakeham says he's going to develop Gull Island. I would ask him, how is he going to develop it? Who is going to develop it? And when is it going to be developed? We have been waiting to develop this forever and ever, and all it has ever been is rocks and water. We have an opportunity now with partners in Quebec to build the project at Gull Island at their cost and at their risk. And we know the history of the PC party is they want Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to pay for projects. With Muskrat Falls, the Liberal government wants Quebec to pay for this project and for us to earn the money that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians deserve. So how, when, who, and why are we waiting to develop a Gull Island? Why can't we develop it right now? Why can't we say to Quebec, we want a good deal with you that benefits Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, not only on Gull Island, but on Churchill Falls, so we can get the money we deserve now and not wait until 2041, when, by the way, again, there might very well not be a deal on the table, in which case all the assets on Churchill Falls will be stranded for every Newfoundlander and Labradorian for years to come.
We will have a deal. We will build energy. We will build industries in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Quebec are dancing in the streets right now, and the press is telling them to keep their voices down because they don't want people to realize how good a deal it is for Quebec and bad for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Okay, thank you very much, leaders. Let's turn now to
So there we go. A little bit of a taste of what's going on. You can see the three leaders, how they carry themselves. I could see the Churchill Falls deal is the one where Mr. Wakeham was probably the most classically conservative, if we consider this new thing that's masquerading as conservatism, how it's going on. See there, like, suspicion and all that kind of stuff. But that's the most like that he got. So it's like nowhere near the same ballpark as Pierre Poilievre in terms of the aggressiveness and the insinuations of all that kind of stuff. But him clearly making the point that he does not believe that this could possibly be the best deal, and would definitely like say, can we get a fact check? Can we get an independent review to see if this is actually a really good deal? And wanting to submit it to a referendum, which is interesting because, I can understand on such a big project wanting to go to the people, but, at least as a Canadian, I've seen the federal government take on projects that were way larger without a referendum. I'm looking at, just Trans Mountain. That was $34 billion that went into there, and it was like a policy plank in an election, and we didn't get a specific referendum. So referendum seems to be a type of thing. If we're talking about developing a resource and doing it relatively quickly, throwing it to a referendum where then you're going to have one side, one would suppose, and they're making the case that we should not be doing this and putting that to chance. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the best idea in this case. We have Mr. Hogan making the point that he would not consider this a whipped vote, would allow it to be a free vote. So that's a sign that he has confidence enough in the soundness of the deal, that if it was put to a free vote, it would have no problem passing. But that is an interesting commitment there, and making the point that if you subject it to a referendum or delay, when he's talking about 2041, that deal may not still be there. And a little bit from the conservative, from Mr. Wakeham there, saying like, we will get it done, we will get it. It's like, well, that's again, love your confidence, love your commitment, but that's not assured. There are certain deals and certain projects that only have a window, and if the window is passed, and if you don't take the advantage of the opportunity during the window, it doesn't come back again, or can become economically unfeasible if you wait around for a second time. And that is a reality that he didn't seem to be acknowledging all that much. Mr. Dinn didn't have too much to say other than his opening intervention there. But from that point on, the debate was more between Wakeham and the liberal Mr. Hogan, but with Mr. Dinn making the point that there were certain conditions that the NDP had laid out in order for the NDP to grant its support to such an initiative, and that whether those conditions were being met was slightly questionable. So that was the first part that set it up. But then later on in the debate, probably about another 20 minutes or so after those moments took place, we had this moment come up. And again, this was a more, the first part, a very respectful laying out of different positions. This one here, there's a little more fire and a little more attack in this one. You can see that the leaders are definitely trying to establish a little more contrast here. So, about half an hour into the debate, a little more, people are starting to get comfortable. They've found their footing. They haven't made too many mistakes yet. And now they feel, that they've got a little, some good stuff rolling here, and want to show that they can roll their sleeves up and get their I don't want to say get their elbows up because we're already using that way too much, but can show that they can get into the corners a little bit and rough up a little some of their opponents here. All right, so let's go to the next moment. I am, if you looks like I am stretching, I am, because unfortunately, I am trying to get the timer to where I want it to go, and for some reason, every time I'm pressing on something, something else is happening too. There we go. Now I got it for you. It's hard to talk and set things up at the same time. Mr. Grizzly is much this than I am. But here we go. This is a Churchill again, and like I said, a little bit, some clause, a little bit of clause.
Thank you. Mr. Hogan, you have said any government that runs a deficit after a deal with Quebec is signed is not doing a good job, but the province is borrowing more than it ever has before. So how will you put an end to this culture of overspending?
So the best way to put an end to the culture of overspending, and we should never overspend, even when we get this Churchill Falls deal, we should never spend more than we need to spend on what we deserve and what we want as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. But when we're consistently running deficits in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and after a day, potentially in April, when we have definitive agreements and everybody knows that it's a great deal for Newfoundland and Labrador, we will then have an extra $1 billion on top of the deficit. So right away, the deficit will turn into a surplus. It is simple as that. Now we need to make sure that that money goes to services for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but also look after our debt, look after our deficit. Let's look after the future of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. I'm very disappointed to see the PC platform come out tonight. And the way that they are going to spend the money, almost $1 billion when you add it up, including the cost of ferries, $1 billion, they're going to get rid of the Future Fund. They are going to pay for today for political reasons and take away the future of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. That is not the right way to do politics, and that's not the right way to govern Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Ben?
Mr. Dinn, the NDP have promised millions. Oh, sorry, this question is actually for Mr. Wakeham. Mr. Wakeham, you have promised millions as well in this campaign. Are the PCs, are the progressive conservatives still fiscally conservative?
Absolutely. And to correct Mr. Hogan, $284 million in operating expenditure, and most of it will be found within the existing budget by the wastage that the Liberal government has incurred over the last number of years. The $240 million they spend on travel nurses, the $40 million they spend on a Comfort Inn, the $170,000 they gave to a soccer team in England, the Premier's office in Grand Falls, the office in Boston. All of these things are expenditures that people of Newfoundland and Labrador could do without. Those are the type of expenditures that we will look at and identify. But let me go back to the MOU. Mr. Hogan is prepared to mortgage the future of Newfoundland and Labrador to rush to sign a deal with Quebec that he refuses to send for an independent assessment. We have no idea whether those job numbers are actually going to be there. We have no guarantee. Those numbers for revenue have not been validated by an independent review. So yes, Mr. Hogan is rushing to make a deal with Quebec, and I don't understand why you will refuse to send it for an independent review.
Thank you, Mr. Wakeham. I'd like to invite
Yeah,
you,
I
Mr.
wanna
Hogan. But
say-
first, actually, I would like to throw something in
Sure.
a very last minute, because we were hit with something last minute as well. Want to start this debate between you and Mr. Wakeham. Both of your parties released your platforms very late this afternoon, just before this debate. Can you talk about why you both decided to wait to the last minute to release?
I do want to talk about the fact that there's accusations of rushing a deal. We have been working on this deal literally since 1969. People in NL Hydro have been starving for this deal, and Newfoundlanders and Labradorians have been. Now, there's a little bit of a laugh over there when I said that. Okay, so fine. This deal has been on the table since December of 2024. That was 10 months ago, and we're still months away from target dates to sign the definitive agreements. And by the way, that's not a hard line. If we need more time to get the deal right, we will go beyond April 2026. So after all that time, after all the debate, after all the public discourse, we still don't know where Mr. Wakeham stands on that. Now, he decided not to vote in the House the day the MOU was voted on. The NDP voted, the Liberals voted, and the Independents voted. The PCs decided not to do their job and not to tell Newfoundlanders and Labradorians where they stand on this. And they still haven't told people where they are. Is it a good MOU or is it a bad MOU? So I would suggest when there's accusations about delaying, I would say the most important thing is to tell people your position on the most important deal in the history of our province.
We have been quite clear on where we stand in this deal. We will sign no deal until it has gone through an independent review outside of that. And once we have that, we will turn around
Mr.
and
Wakeham.
send it to the people.
Okay, that's
So there you go, kits and cubs. That was some of the first fireworks of the night there, if you can call it fireworks. But in that, as we had hinted when we did the last Focus on Newfoundland show, the platforms were not out. The NDP was the only party that had a platform out prior to advanced voting. The other two put theirs out afterwards. And one of their parties, the PCs, and it is in fact the PCs, I just heard it confirmed in the answer, released their platform on the night of the debate itself. Very similar to what Pierre Poilievre did at the federal level, released his platform with the costing on the night of one of the debates. And of course, the costing was completely atrocious and got him laughed out of the country. But pretty much torched the Conservatives' reputation, and it was only reputation because there's not much behind it. Us being sound fiscal managers with that type of costing. Once again, the Conservatives tabling their platform really late. Again, this is one of the things that sticks in my craw, as you know, kits and cubs. It's a bias that I have, and I put my cards on the table. I am always pro allowing the voters to cast the most informed vote possible, and things like not showing up to debates, not having media follow you when you are campaigning, and things like releasing your platform after advanced voting, or platform 2 days before, 3 days before you're going to the vote, not giving enough people enough time to actually look at it, research some things, discuss it with friends, and all that kind of stuff is getting in the way of people's right to cast a fully informed vote. And my personal bias is always that parties that wait until like the very end to release their platforms. Now, I can understand you want to wait till maybe some part in the campaign until you've made a couple of policy announcements so that it's not all out in your platform when you release it first, and therefore there's nothing new. Although We've seen that happen before. In Ontario, Mike Harris, when he ran, he released his common sense platform like a full year or something before it was the election, and had a chance to run on it and get people to know it, and that worked for him. So it's not always a bad thing that you release your policy first. Some people have been able to win on that. But the conventional thinking is you don't release it all out yet because you want some announcements to make, and you want to keep some things hidden so that you can have some surprise and maybe win a media day and that type of stuff. But you can release a whole platform, and then each day, talk about a specific plank of it and detail it, and still have, and if you've actually thought of a full platform beyond the lines and actually a little bit more about how it's going to be done and how you're going to deliver it, and some strategies and some contingencies, well, then you can put it out in a platform and still have it announceable the next day where you're giving more detail about it because you've thought about it and you've already fleshed it out. So there are various ways of doing a campaign, but that is one of the things here that was happening. And again, it seems that because this was about the section was on deficit spending, so the Liberal premier, or the interim premier, went on the attack, stating that not only did the platform come out that night, now that's a little shaky ground for the Liberals to be on, because their platform still came out between advanced voting and the debate, so it wasn't that many days prior to the PCs. But the PCs platform came out on the night of the debate and contained something about getting rid of the Future Fund. And for those who are wondering what that is, the Newfoundland and Labrador Future Fund is a provincial fund created in 2023, so very recent creation, to invest revenue from one-time sources and non-renewable resources to strengthen the province finances. So this is similar to, I'm going to guess, that Sovereign Fund in Norway and the Alberta Heritage Fund. Newfoundland and Labrador was creating that type of fund for itself as well. And it seems that at least according to the Liberal leader, the Progressive Conservative Party's goal is to eliminate that fund itself, even though it's only been in existence for possibly a little more or less than 2 years here. It says the main goal of the fund are to pay down debt, lower the cost of borrowing, and build long-term financial strength for current and future generations. Managed by the Department of Finance and overseen by a board of trustees, it receives contributions from asset sales, over $5 million, and a portion of non-renewable resource royalties. And I do not know how much, if there's any data as to how much there is in the fund at the moment. But according to CBC, and this was the correction that Mr. Wakeham made when Mr. Hogan was suggesting that the Progressive Conservatives had a lot of spending on their platform. Mr. Wakeham confirming that it was only $284.6 million in new spending, which was significantly less than that was claimed by his Liberal counterpart here. All right. Also, Kits and Cubs, in that section, as you noticed, the moderator came in the middle and then added a little bit of an extra question, like saying, yeah, about those platforms, would you talk about that? And Mr. Hogan just sailed right by that one, and then continued talking about the deal, because Mr. Wakeham's counter argument is that this deal is being rushed, being done in secret, and we certainly can't trust those Liberals to be making a good deal that's in the interest of Newfoundland and Labrador. So we definitely have to pass it by some type of independent body to give us a sense that that deal is in fact a good one. I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. It is something that delays, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. But of course, the devil's in the details, and then it becomes, well, who's on that council? Who's on that review board, and what are their qualifications? And do any of them have any partisan leanings? Right? It's very nice to say an independent review board, but that's the overall idea. And then we look at the quality of the execution of that idea. Not a lot of details about that here. And then, of course, making the point here, and a very important point, that when it came time to have a vote in the legislature about the MOU itself, that all the parties, including and independents that were there, expressed a vote, at least in support of the MOU at the time, which is probably what Mr. Dinn was referring to in his initial response when he said that they did give support, but there were some conditions for that that didn't seem to be respected. But Mr. Wakeham was not available on the day of the vote on that MOU to get on record what it is his actual position is on the MOU. Does he think it's good or not? And Mr. Wakeham here playing that cute political game. I don't want to say yes. I don't want to say no. I'm saying that it has to go in front of an independent review. And then once they tell me something, then I will decide yes or no, which makes one sound like they want to add an extra layer of verification. And that could be, an extra check and balance or that type of stuff in the process. And that itself is in and of itself is not bad, so long as it doesn't delay things too much and doesn't add to the cost too greatly. But it also is for something like, for example, when Pierre Poilievre did not want to take a position on capital gains, whether or not he would actually cut it or change what Prime Minister Trudeau had proposed, or eliminate or keep it, because he was trying to claim that he was pro the people. Oh my God, I can't believe they're going to do this. But conservatives also break out into hives every time you propose taxing the rich or making them pay 1 penny more for anything else, anything at all. It's like, why are you punishing wealth creators, right? So, but in a society where we have greedflation, and everybody's talking about like gross corporate profits, maybe a capital gains tax, not necessarily a bad idea at that point. And conservatives certainly didn't want to be accused of trying to protect the wealthy as well. So when you're in that situation, you don't want to send a sign to the business community that you're okay with people who make a lot of money within it being taxed more on their capital gains, but you also don't want to send the message to the masses that you're all for not taxing the wealthy. Well, you do something like saying, oh, well, it's an interesting idea. Let's see what an independent review board will think of it. And I will reserve my judgment until then. Rather than just trying to avoid an answer, you propose another step in the process. And that's an important piece of information that you need before you can make a decision. And that way you delay your decision, but you make yourself look like a little bit more of a statesman who's protecting, or somebody who really just wants to get more information. It's a clever tactic. Sometimes it's sincere, sometimes it's a stall tactic. Again, I do not know what's in Mr. Wakeham's heart on this one, but of course, he does appear to be starting from the premise that we shouldn't trust the Liberals alone in order to make this deal, which you heard the interim premier state, I think, in the previous answer, in the previous block, that it wasn't it's not a Liberal deal with Quebec, it's a Newfoundland deal with Quebec, and hence he would not whip the vote. Yes. So those were some of the first sparring and trying to establish some contrast. There was another section later on crime, and this one I liked because um, it was a good moment for the leader of the NDP in this one, uh, because when you're talking about crime, you often get, if we're polarizing, in two positions. One is lock them up, law and order, drop the hammer. And the other one is, yeah, but what are you doing to get to the root causes to make sure that we don't have crime, because all of your solutions are dealing with crime after it has happened. We punish people more, we hire more judges, we build more jails, but we don't do anything to actually prevent the crime. We just do all that. And the thinking is that if we punish it more severely, or if we show that we're punishing it each time, that itself will be the deterrent that will take to reduce the crime. Whereas there are other parties, for example, the NDP, who believe that in a lot of cases, crime is created because of a lack of opportunity, lack of housing will lead one to commit some crimes. If you have an addiction plus lack of housing will lead people to commit some crimes, either to feed the habit or whatever. Some people in the winter, it gets cold, commit a crime, get arrested, have a warm place to sleep that night. If you had housing, maybe there wouldn't be that crime. So let's get to the root causes. So you have these two perspectives, and in this case, Mr. Dinn acquitted himself very well in this subject area.
And on that note, let's slide into the topic of crime and public safety. It's a conversation that's difficult to have without also addressing mental health supports. VOCM's Russell Bowers has a question for the PC party leader. Russell?
Thank you, Carolyn, and good evening, gentlemen. As this person laid out, I mean, mental health and public safety are connected. We're seeing that through resources for police, people feeling safe in their neighborhoods, prison capacity, overworked Crown prosecutors and their staff. So I want to address various aspects of this. So, and what you all announced during the course of your campaign. Mr. Wakeham, we see drug-related deaths on the rise, crime and drug-related crime also on the rise. So you've pledged to hire more police officers. How will that solve root causes of crime stemming from things like poverty and mental health?
To your point about crime in our communities, once upon a time, if you lived in Newfoundland and Labrador, you watched crime on TV and you went to visit your family physician down the road. Now, we have crime in our communities, and if we want to get a doctor, we have to go watch a TV screen. That has to change. But crime, the National Police Association has made recommendations on the number of RCMP officers that they would see as additional needed in our province. We've taken that recommendation, adopted that recommendation. So that's exactly what we're doing, more RNC officers. But we've also committed to more mental health crises teams, because the last thing you want having respond to you if you're in a crisis of mental health is a police officer. That's why these mental health crisis teams are so important, and we need more of them in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And I want to make sure that we do just that. Let's put more of those teams in place to help in those situations. And also, we've adopted not a cookie cutter approach by talking about Labrador and the special needs that they have.
Mm-hmm. So just a little aside there, cutting in, that was a good line for Mr. Wakeham at the beginning. We used to watch crime on TV and go to our physicians, and it's like now we see crime in our streets and we have to watch physicians on TV. Clever little turn there, a way to broach the subject. All right, moving on.
Well, Mr. Hogan, can I turn to you? I know that you've pledged to hire additional Crown prosecutors. This kind of comes back to the idea of recruitment and retention, because what is the recruitment strategy, or is there a timeline for it? And will it involve incentives to incentivize people to fill these vacancies?
So certainly, when I was Minister of Justice and Public Safety, we put in the budget an increase in salaries for lawyers who work in the Department of Justice, including Crown prosecutors, which was a long time coming. It is partially, when you want to recruit and retain people, of course, it is about a fair salary and a reasonable salary and a deserved salary for people who work so hard in the justice system. But it's also about workload. So more Crown prosecutors will certainly help that as well. And more police will help. I was asked a question a couple of weeks ago about, will more police necessarily mean more files for Crown prosecutors to deal with? And we were actually in Fogo Island, Cape Friels. Our candidate there is a former RCMP officer, and he talked about community policing. And he says more police officers will not necessarily lead to more arrests or more work for Crown prosecutors. It will lead to less crime. People want to see the RCMP and they want to see the RNC in their communities. They want to feel safe. And people who may be on the verge of doing something that are committing a crime, maybe talking to a police officer, talking to those mobile health crisis teams, those units, will avoid those crimes in the future. So it's not an easy solution to say more police, more Crown prosecutors, more judges. It's a complex issue, and you have to look at all those aspects as one, because it really is an ecosystem and one affects the other.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. I'm going to invite Mr. Wakeham to respond. You both agree? More police officers? Where do you disagree?
Well, that's why we've talked about the need for more police, more Crown attorneys, but we've also talked about the need not just to have a cookie cutter approach, We need to be talking about where we can put resources and how they fit. And that's why in Labrador, where they have special needs when it comes to mental health and addictions, we've committed to a program made in Labrador. That's the kind of things we ought to be doing. It's not just simply saying we're going to have one size fits all. We need to be talking to people in their communities and find out what will work for them. And that's the approach that we have taken. That's the approach we will continue to take.
20 seconds.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have committed to more police officers. We've committed to doing what needs to be done in the circumstances around the province. I know that crime has been a serious issue for the last number of years, but we did create a police transformation working group a number of years ago to look at making sure that policing in this province is not done the way it used to be, but it's done in the modern way that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians deserve.
Mr. Dinn, let me ask you this question, because I know the other two leaders have touched on rural aspects of this issue. What do you see as an expanded role for the RCMP in some of our smaller communities, or do you even foresee an idea that the RNC could expand the scope of its operations in the province?
I've got to go back to the original question in the context of this, because we're talking about mental health and addictions and so on and so forth. We can't just police our way out of it. There's a role. But I'll tell you, from my point of view, and I've said this, that housing, the lack of housing, the mental health and addictions, and the increase in crime, they're interrelated. It's not by accident that we've seen, at the same time we've seen crime increase, we've seen the significant rise of homelessness, also the fact that more people are in shelters than ever before, women trying to flee intimate partner violence have nowhere to go. I'll draw your attention to this, but there's a role for police, but it's got to be part of the solution. And I go to St. Thomas in Ontario, where Indwell, a supportive housing project organization moved in, and the calls to police dropped. The police chief said that addressing the root causes such as mental health, addiction, and housing insecurity requires a coordinated approach, not just increased police resources. And this has been forgotten in this whole thing about addressing the root causes of this. Pure and simple.
Mr. Dinn, I'll stop you right there and invite the other leaders to jump in.
If I could, Mr. Dinn is not wrong when he talks about affordable housing and the need for housing. We saw that firsthand when we had the tents camped outside the Confederation building. But our government had no plan. There was no poverty reduction strategy. There was nothing. And at the end of the day, what did we wind up doing? We wind up rushing out, reacting, and turning around and signing a lease with a Liberal insider for a hotel, a Comfort Inn, which we spent $7 million a year on the lease and another $6 million in operating, almost $40 million, just because a problem.
So I would take exception to
They
that.
have no reaction.
I would say what the Liberal government did is saw people have roofs over their heads and made sure that we acted quickly to put a roof over their heads.
Should have had a poverty reduction
Made sure
strategy.
that the wraparound services were there for those people. It was an issue where there was people living outside. They still are, and we still have work to do. But that was an immediate situation, and we took action to make sure that those people had a warm bed at night.
Thank you, leaders. Let's shift now to the topic of immigration. And Mr.
All right there, kids and cubs. So again, a little bit, some firework there. And you're at the end a little bit, if you can call it that, for this level of debate. But you will notice that whole sentence started with Hogan drawing links between hiring more police officers, but also having the proper number of attorneys to be able to deal with the cases when that was the case, when we're talking about crime. And then in this section, we saw a lot of the things that I saw in Wakeham that I mentioned, that he seems to be a sincere man who really does care about the issues, because twice in these interventions, he spoke specifically of Labrador and the special situations there, the special with regard to crime, and of course with mental health as well. And then later on in the answer, when he was talking about the housing situation, after Mr. Dinn from the NDP's intervention saying that Mr. Dinn was right, and talking about needing a poverty reduction strategy, which I had mentioned in another answer, was referred to when Mr. Dinn was talking about the Conservatives and was giving credit where credit was due from having had crafted a poverty reduction strategy when they were in power, and one that had worked. It actually had reduced poverty. There were results to show for it, and that program had been cancelled under the Liberal government. And so going back and saying that we need a poverty reduction strategy. So you can, like I said, he's not bombastic, and you can see he does care about the actual issues and does believe that government can play a role here. But for me, in that section, there was Mr. Dinn, when he was asked finally that question that allowed him to talk about root causes, when he's talking about, saying, not being able to police your way out of crime. And again, him too making the links between addictions and housing and policing and how it's all related. And, you got to look at it as a whole if you want to fix the problem. And also mentioning in there the fact that women who are fleeing intimate partner violence don't have anywhere to go because the shelters are full. And then we had the second element in that, where they were talking about housing the homeless. And there again, right, when you see Wakeham saying, like, we do actually need a poverty reduction strategy, but they're going with the cost for it, and which looked like a solid moment. But Mr. Hogan, the premier, being able to defend himself, saying, listen, it was an emergency situation and we definitely needed to house people immediately. And we did. But there's a lot of work to do. And yes, we are looking at getting some more permanent housing, not just hotel, but, in other words, what was I going to do? Just leave them on the street? So, yes, we did do that contract. And yes, it cost some money, but that just shows that we really do need to take some action to solve the problem. So again, solid from everyone in there in terms of making connections and whatnot. But again, some back and forth and a little bit of sparring there that allows to see some contrast between the candidates. Let's see, what else have I got here with this? Causes of crime. Oh, yes. There was this little bit here on fiscal responsibility during the debate that I found interesting. It's a bit of a shorter clip than the ones I've been showing so far. Probably just a one back and forth in this one. But a very good enough moment that in this debate that seems to be much calmer than one would expect. Again, a very good point being made and highlighted. So I'm just going to set this thing up. Got a couple more seconds to go until I'm at the right time. And there it is. And here we go. Question from the journalist and the answer right up.
Now for you. The NDP have promised millions in new spending on things like healthcare, housing, cost of living. How will you pay for these commitments and address the debt?
So I'll start out by saying that whatever debt we have, whatever deficits we've run, whatever problems we have in healthcare, housing, mental health supports, crumbling infrastructure, you name it, has been brought to you by the Liberal PC tag team. As simple as that. We have not been in power, but it was important to us to release a costed platform, a 4-year costed platform that shows how we would profile some spending, such as subsidies to oil companies or to nursing agencies, and reprofile them into more or less helping the people of the province. So we took that as a sign of respect to the voters, because we've heard the accusations from both sides that we have no plan. Well, we have a plan. We've had a plan for the better part of 3 weeks. We don't have a plan. The first we hear of any plan from both Liberals and is today, after the early voting. But we've been very clear about demonstrating our work, how we got these numbers. I haven't seen that from either one of them. We had a lot of talk about spending, but not a lot of talk about the work of it.
I'll jump right in and invite both of you, all three of you, to talk about this.
Absolutely. We've been releasing our plan ever since this election started. Every single day, we've stood in front of the cameras and stood in front of the people in Newfoundland and Labrador and outlined our platform. A platform to make healthcare better, to lower taxes for everyone, to turn around and make sure that we took care of crime in our communities. Better health care, lower taxes, safer communities for all of us. And we've been talking about that since the campaign began, because the number one issue in this campaign is not the MOU or the secret deal with Quebec. It's actually health care.
So I have seen the plan, as I said, and the most upsetting and disappointing thing in that is to get rid of the Future Fund. So Mr. Wakeham, your slogan for this election is for all of us. I think that your election platform clearly says it's not about everybody in the future. It's not about my kids. It's not about my grandkids. It's about you. It's about you trying to make sure that you get enough votes now. But I'm more concerned with the future of Newfoundlanders
And that's
Labradorians.
time. Thank you so much, Leader.
And there, the premier getting a dig in at the last second there, raising the temperature a little bit. But there we go, Mr. Dinn, making me very happy talking about wanting to respect the voters, and that's why the official platform for the NDP was published 3 weeks ago. Wakeham countering a little weakly that so we've been releasing elements from our platform every day since the election started. Yes, we understand that, but there still needs to be a comprehensive view of everything that's put out at some point, number one. And number two, this is an overall beef that I have. And again, if you've been watching the show for a long time, in December 2023, I believe I remember I showed you a clip of Melissa Landsman, who is the deputy leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, on CTV's Question Period with Vasi Kapelos at the time when we thought that the election might still be happening in October, telling Vasi Kapelos, when asked about what the PCs were offering policy-wise, not wanting to answer, deflecting left, right, and center, and basically dismissing the question, dismissing all of us by saying, you'll find out what we have for you when the election happens. So basically saying that between December and October, or end of September when the election was called, we were just going to get another 10 months or 9 months of Conservatives playing whatever games that they were playing before we could find out what was going to be on their platform. Why wouldn't they just tell us certain elements beforehand? Why wouldn't they develop them? So they were going out of their way, and then when they got to the election, they didn't release their platform to the end and wouldn't have journalists and wouldn't go and debate. So they didn't seem to be very confident in their platform, because they, while they went out every night and every day and had an announceable, this is what Wakeham is saying here, says, well, yes, but every day and announceable is not the platform. Right. So, like I said, it's that dual sense of priorities. Do you want to get the platform out right away and have people discussing it and have more about you out there, and create a lot of discussion, or do you want to do a policy day and not scoop yourself by releasing the platform? But if you're going to do that, you have to have some really, really great policy, and several of them that are really good, and that you can release, and have somebody talk about it for so good that they've been talking about it for 2-3 days, and release another one, and then have to be something that's majorly transformative or whatnot to get that shock and that surprise value. If it's just run-of-the-mill tweaks and adjustments, doubling this from $200 to $400 or whatnot, yes, it's an announceable for the campaign. If you've got 36 days of campaign and you need 36 announceables, and you're going to have slower days, larger days, but they're not the type of things that you need to keep your platform under wraps. Because, oh my God, the news might be get out before we announce it, and then we'll lose all the hit from the news. So there's a balance to be stricken there, but to turn around and say, well, no, we've been talking about our platform every day since the election started. It's a short election period. That's still not a lot of time to discuss your policy and platform. So we have 4 years between governments, but you get 27, and we had 4 years to tell you everything that we were going to do and what we were going to plan and whatnot like this. But really, you get 27 days to consider. We had 4 years to plan it, but you got 27 days to consider it. It's not particularly fair. It's not really how it should work. It's really not how it should work. But yes, again, they're near the end. Mr. Hogan getting in a little dig and timing it well, so for when the timing of the section was coming to an end, so nobody can give a rebuttal unless they wanted to take time away from themselves to rebut it in another section, which is always possible and often happens in a debate. So I know you asked that question, but they said this thing about me earlier on, and I need to respond to that. There was a nice section here about Labrador in the debate as well, which was really nice. I like to hear that, because there wasn't, Labrador is not part of the country that you get to hear a lot about. So I really liked that. And unfortunately, we're running a little short on time. So all I can do is mention it in this particular case because I did want to get to one other section that has to do with the wildfires that took place. And of course, the wildfires in Newfoundland and Labrador were rather devastating this particular season. And as was the case in Alberta, for example, remember when they had the Jasper Park fire, there was a report that came out afterwards, and Danielle Smith got herself into a little snit because the report dared to mention that there's things that the provincial government could have done better, like try not to assert authority where it had none, and delay decision making by demanding a whole bunch of justifications for decisions when they weren't in the decision making tree to begin with. So there's always these types of reports, and they're supposed to be there to learn from them, especially if something's going to become a new normal and it's going to be happening often. You want your processes and your response to be practiced, rehearsed, known, down pat, almost automatic rote, so that you can just jump into it. And because every second is precious, every minute can mean a life saved, so or property saved. So you want to react fast, and you want things to be very clear, the lines of communications to be very clear, so that evacuations and other things like that can happen in an orderly fashion, and again be crystal clear, not send any mixed messages, not make sure that everybody can get out, and all that type of stuff, right? You probably want to have start developing some programs to make your population a little more emergency preparedness conscious. There are certain countries, for example, in Sweden, where there's like they send people this stuff in the mail like every next while, and here's your guide to what you need to do to be emergency prepared. And there are community meetings that you can go to and find out, and everybody's encouraged to have a certain amount of a stock of certain things in case something happens. And we just don't have that culture here in Canada. So this given what had happened, we knew for sure it was going to be a topic of the debate. And this is what happened this year, and how could we improve our response? Because at the point we're at, nobody's going to say that we're going to make sure that there are no wildfires happening. We've done some of that damage, and that one's baked in. We're going to be dealing with this. If we did everything that we needed to do starting today, we would probably have another 25 to 30 summers of these types of wildfires before things started to abate. There's a lot of the stuff that's already baked in. But very important subject, because there were houses that were lost, which means that people were left homeless, and housing is an issue in Newfoundland and Labrador, the lack of supply. So when you have wildfires that take a certain number of people out of their homes and even permanently destroy their homes, and where you don't have enough supply for the people you have now, that creates a lot of pressure and tension as well. So here we go, looking at the issue of wildfires.
Poverty reduction strategy back in.
And that's time for this topic. From the north coast of Labrador to the North Shore, let's hear now from some voters living in Conception Bay North.
Hi, my name's Haley Poudan, and I am from Adams Cove. I recently moved here during the Kingston wildfires. An issue in this election that is important to me is about food accessibility and sustainability in the CBN and other rural remote areas of Newfoundland and Labrador, specifically when there is an emergency disaster response.
Hi, my name is Robin Dwyer. I was one of the volunteer coordinators for the evacuation center during the Kingston wildfire. As well, myself and my family lost our home as a result of the Kingston wildfire. This, I believe, is just the beginning of what is going to be the norm in terms of wildfire seasons during the summer in this province. And it will happen again, unfortunately. There are almost 200 families that are currently without a home. We need to rebuild. We need to have provincial support and government support for that to happen, to ensure that the North Shore just doesn't become a burnt area on the province's map.
Yeah, a lot of people worrying that this is becoming the norm. Mr. Dinn, this question for you. This was a historic and devastating wildfire season. Weather events are intensifying, not just wildfires, but also hurricanes. What is your party's plan to help the province and residents adapt to this new climate reality?
The first thing to the residents in that fire, I have tremendous sympathy for them. I volunteer there several times during it. My family is from there. That's where the Dinns originated, in that area. I will say that from my observation, certainly the government was doing the best it could in response to that. Okay, but this is going to be the norm. So it's going to have to come down to making sure we can get people back in their homes quickly as possible, because we're going to have another disaster next year, guaranteed. But not only fires, but if you listen to the reports, it comes down to wells drying up, water shortages. Farmers are hitting crisis. You've got farmers asking people not to use bales of hay because they need it for feed. So we've got a much bigger issue, and that's about addressing the whole issue of climate change and mitigating that. We understand it. I don't know if the other parties do.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dinn. This question is for you, Mr. Wakeham. With more damaging weather events expected, what would a PC government do to be proactive rather than reactive when disaster strikes?
Absolutely, but let me also join with my colleagues, because all of us here recognize the significant destruction and disaster that happened with the Kingston fires this summer, and the devastation that it caused, and the more than 200 houses that were destroyed. You know, and I want to thank all the volunteers and the volunteer fire departments and everybody that was involved with it, because it is something. And now that we've had that disaster, we got to make sure we're there to help them build, just as the lady had said in the interview. We need to make sure government is there to work with them to build. On the issue of preparedness is what it comes down to. We need to be prepared. You know, when you have a fifth water bomber and it goes down in 2018 and you fail to repair it for 5 years, and it's only now getting repaired at twice the cost of what it would have been back in 2018, that's not preparedness. What we ought to be looking at, and that's why we've decided we're going to hire more wildfire officers in the field. We're going to hire them 4 weeks earlier, and we're going to hire 25 more of them, so they can go in and start to look at where we might establish fire breaks, what we can do to clean up rubbish. All of those things are important.
Thank you, Mr. Wakeham. Mr. Dinn, what do you think of that plan?
Look, it's all part. Whatever the plan is, it's going to have to be coordinated. One of the things I heard in talking to firefighters, and these are volunteer firefighters in many cases, laying their lives on the line. It's sometimes putting out fires in their own homes or their neighbors' homes. But certainly a coordination as we go forward, and this is going to become the norm, as this is a dress rehearsal, I've heard one meteorologist call it. Then it's about the coordination between wildland firefighters and, I guess, your structure or your volunteer firefighters or the professional firefighters, about the coordination going forward. There's I guess, it's certainly making sure that communication is established, because that was the biggest source of anxiety and frustration I heard from the people at the school, is not knowing. And I think that would go a long way to reducing fear and reducing the rumors and the conspiracy theories as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dinn. Now to Mr. Hogan. Mr. Dinn talked a bit about this. The dry summer forced many communities to declare a state of emergency due to critical water levels, and farmers say that they're operating in crisis mode. How will your government ensure that the province is ready for these major environmental events?
So this was a very difficult summer for a lot of people in this province, and particularly people on the shore, the North Shore there. And I've met with Robin several times when I was back and forth to that part of the province, and can't thank her enough for the volunteer time and effort she put in. I know she's lost her home and her husband, her little boy now. He's had to move to a different school, away from his friends. So it's an incredibly difficult time for people in that part of the province. But we all saw them come together. We saw the volunteers and the Salvation Army and the Red Cross and the firefighters and the pilots and the dispatchers. And we talk about communication, and the Provincial Emergency Operations Centre really did an amazing job of coordinating a huge effort across the province, and I can't say thank you enough to them. But the question is, what are we going to do in the future? I mean, thankfully, we did a pretty good job of managing these fires this summer. We lost structures, but we saved a lot of structures as well due to the brave work of the firefighters. Our government is committed to getting an additional asset here when we need it, an additional heavy lift helicopter to fight those fires in the future. We talk about food security. We will increase the amount of money that communities can have from $750 to $1,500 to grow their own food in communities. So if they are cut off, like, for example, parts of the province were, including down in Harbour Breton, and increasing that money for individuals as well.
Opening the floor.
Well, I think one of the things that my colleague Mr. Dinn hit on was the communication piece. And when I was talking to people in that area, one of the biggest challenges for them was being able to get a hold of family and friends because of the lack of cellular coverage. And that's why we've announced as a party that we're going to invest a further $3 million to make sure that we start bringing cell phone towers all across the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And we'll start right there.
I just want to get back to the question again, because I was talking about being really prepared from a food security standpoint. I also heard from farmers on the other side of this province, on the west coast, in the last few weeks, talking about the drought and the severe effect it's had on hay and feeding their livestock. So we have committed to working with them to make sure that that supply chain doesn't break down in the future, so we can have our own food grown here in Newfoundland and Labrador, because over the past 2 or 3 years, we have seen entire peninsulas and entire communities get cut off. We need to make sure that doesn't happen in the future.
And that's time. On to the next topic, which is
And there you go, kids and cubs, about the wildfires and some of the things I mentioned earlier on in the policy proposals when I did sort of like an overview, the cell phone thing and the money to be able to grow food, because Mr. Hogan, Premier Hogan in this, candidate Hogan, I should say in this case, because we're in a caretaker mode in government and he's not technically the premier at the moment. Governor, oh my God, candidate Hogan at this point, bringing the subject back to what was the main question about food security with regard to it, and talking about not only the wildfires portion, but making sure in cases of drought, because we're talking about how climate change is affecting things, right? There are the fires, but then there are also the drought, which creates the fuel for the fire. In that case, and when you have drought, not only is there fuel for fire, but conversely, if we're talking about people being cut off from food supplies due to a fire, but then you have drought, so then you can't have food supplies, right? You need to take care of that as well. So addressing that comment there with the NDP talking about needing better coordination, making the point I was making about, if this is the new normal, then you want these processes to be seamless. And him making the point later on that he had heard somebody say that what happened this summer was basically a dress rehearsal for what's to come over the next few decades. So, you got to get this piece right. The progressive conservative candidate, talking about the communication piece, making sure that there was there would be self-service across the province for that, but not really engaging so much with the topic. More than that, one of the things that happens a lot in these types of debates is when you're talking about stuff like a natural disaster, some people will take the time to thank the volunteers and all that kind of stuff, which is something that you should do. But when you're in a debate and you've got a minute to answer a question and you're using 25 seconds to thank the volunteers and all the teams, when the question is about what are you going to do for the future, again, it makes you look nice and look good to thank the volunteer and the teams, but it also allows you to run out some of the clock if you don't happen to have any solutions, right? And without looking terrible doing it. So there may have been a lot going on there with Mr. Wakeham not as involved in this part of the discussion as he was in others, and his solution being, again, a market-based solution in such a way to market-based, but cell phone towers as opposed, which again needed, but nothing to do with the primary topic, which was food security, and certainly not addressing anything with regard to mitigating, because you can't reduce the wildfires, but mitigating the impact or adapting to building infrastructure to adapt. Other again than making sure that there's a good communication system. Again, needed. It's not a complete waste of an answer. It's just there could have been more. There's more you can do in this case to respond, other than just ensuring that there is a better cell coverage. All right, there we go, kids and cubs. That's the end of our episode already. My God, the time just flew by. Well, we hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please, please, please uh, tell your peeps and poops all about us. And I have Nona Cara say, interesting take, Douglas. And I actually, I was talking when it came in and I don't know what I said before you said it. So I'm just wondering what it is that you found interesting, Kit Nona Carol, if you have a chance to put it up in the chat there. All right. Yes, Kit Moan, only $3 million is quite a laughable investment. You know, I was wondering if 3 million, because at first I had to go back and listen. Did he say 3 million or 3 billion? Because I just would have assumed that cell phone towers was a lot of money. So I'm not sure how many cell phone towers in more rural parts of Newfoundland and Labrador $3 million builds. I have no idea. That's a good question, Mohan, because it could be. How would you put it? How it could be maybe they're just a couple of $100,000 each, and maybe you can get 5 or 6 of up for that money, and maybe that allows you to cover a great area. But I actually don't know, and that's a good question. That's a good the devil's in the details question. Wow, $3 million. That sounds like a lot of money, but what does it buy really? Good point. And Kitnana Carol says is, how you can run the clock while not looking like you're trying to run the clock by being a nice guy. Yes. Yes, these are strategies that can be used indeed. Because you can run the clock and look like a dick, or you can run the clock and still look like a statesman, right? And learning how to run the clock while still being a statesman is a much better ability and asset. So, not criticizing Mr. Wakeham in that sense, just pointing out that his content may have been a little thin, but he found a clever way to fill the time. Kid Sassy goes like 2 towers. Hey. It's 2 more than they had, I guess. If you're a silver linings kind of person. Uh, so yes, please share our content with all of your peeps and poops, and leave a little word of yours there on how it resonated with you. That helps us a lot. Now, kits and cubs, if you would like us to help you. Oh, look, more details here. Kit Saucy goes, in Nova Scotia, the cell phone towers range from 100,000 to 500,000. Okay, so yeah, so maybe you could get a few of them built there. Good stuff. Yeah. I'm glad you guys brought that up. And of course, the sauce boss has the answer, right? Of course. She comes prepared, people. She comes prepared. All right. If you would like us to help you because you are on the go and sometimes you can't watch the episode live with the DAMFAM or at your own convenience, but you've got things to do, but still want to remain informed, thanks to the Ray Girl, well, we can help you out because we like to help, right? Go to our pod page, podpage.com/the truenortheagerbeaver, with the hyphen between each one of those words, or you can scan that QR code and it will bring you right there. And when you go there and click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the audio cast bandwidth, zip, it comes directly to your podcast feed. And all you have to do is pick it up, put it in your ears. We are aerodynamic. We won't slow you down at all. And that way you can do both, take on the day and remain informed. We make it easy. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to help us, well, you can do that by surfing on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. That QR code will bring you right there. And thank you to Kits Elaine and Cassie for all you do to beckon and encourage our people to go. And remember, if you smash the button now, if you're watching, you don't have to remember to smash before you leave. And it's always a good time to smash. All right. So, yes, please go to our YouTube page and click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. It helps us with the algorithm and it makes us very, very happy when you do. And if you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, we happen to have a tip jar, an emergency hydration fund for you, kids and cubs, where you can drop a toonie or loony or a few if you like, and let us know that you like the content that we provide to you, that it resonates with you, that you get something from it, and that you value it, and that you would like to encourage us to do more, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. So please go to ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, or scan that QR code and make a contribution to the Emergency Hydration Fund, because a moist beaver is a happy beaver. And I spent the whole show not drinking from my cup to make sure I had a little bit left for this portion, because I don't like to drink out of an empty cup, and I certainly don't like to pretend that I am. Like some people we know. I won't say who, but you know who you are. So please make a contribution. All of your contributions mean the world to us, and do help us bring this show to you. Now, kids and cups, if you do not want to donate through coffee because you are buying Canadian, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is the email address to which you can send a direct bank transfer. That way, the Brolakarki doesn't get a cut of your donation, and we get 100% of it, which means we can do more with it. Thank you so much. And if you can't donate financially, as we always say, the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter most to us. So do not worry about it whatsoever. And use that same email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, to let us know what you think about the show, or offer us some guest suggestions. We love to hear from you. So please write to us. And if you want to reach us via our socials, TrueEager, at True Eager, I should say, at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, and also on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home. Or if you're watching YouTube, right down here in the comments section, please let us know what you think. We read everything, even though we're not able to get back to everyone. But everything you send us, whether it be financial contribution or a contribution in word, does go back into the show to make it better, because, hey, this is your community too. So thank you very much for everything that you do to help support it and build it. I am very, very grateful. Without you, I'm just a guy in his studio talking to himself, which, I admit I'm easily entertained and could be fun, but I'd much rather have DAMFAM with me. I'm being silly. Okay, kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do. If you're in Newfoundland and Labrador and you have listened to our show today, and hopefully this helps clarify your mind with regard to where your vote is going to go, well then we are happy to be of service. But you need to do your part. Vote, 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 vote. Please get out there. Would love to see some high turnout numbers today. That would be most excellent. So please go out and vote. Bring friends with you. Make an event out of it. Go out for ice cream after, or go out for tea. Have a nice tea after you go vote, or check out a movie together or something, right? But have some fun, right? Voting doesn't have to be this heavy, burdensome duty. You can make it light and you can make it fun. All you need is a little creativity and imagination, and we certainly do not lack for that here at the Beaver Lodge. All right. Of course, because democracy is something that you do. If you're in Alberta, forever-canadian.ca is the website you go to if you want to find out more about how you can keep Alberta within Canada and stop a referendum on separation from happening by creating a referendum on unity, keeping Alberta within Canada. Mr. Thomas Lukasik and his wonderful team of volunteers at forevercanadian.ca are out collecting signatures. They need about 300,000. They've reported 230,000 achieved yet, and they've got till around the end of October to collect the rest. It would certainly be nice to have well over 300,000 to send a very strong message. But you do need to get your signature on it, and it does need to be witnessed by a canvasser, so you do have to come in person, or if you're mobility impaired, maybe call and see if anybody can come to you. And if you would like to be a canvasser to help collect signatures, they have some training so that you can make your intentions known there, particularly if you live in an apartment building. That's a lot of signatures in a very short area, in a small area. And not everybody has access to apartment buildings, of course, because of entry codes and all that kind of stuff. So that's a great way that you can help. And of course, there's always some costs that are incurred by an organization when you are leading a campaign to try and collect over 300,000 signatures from your fellow citizens. So if you would like to support the organization in that way, that would be extremely wonderful. If you live in Yukon Territory, you have a territorial election on November 3rd, so please be familiar with your candidates and maybe call Elections Yukon to see if they need a little help at the polling stations. And again, if you're in Alberta on October 20th, so very soon, you have municipal elections coming up for voting, so please make sure that you show up for that as well. Finally, petition E6679 to increase honesty in politics. Please go to ourcommons.ca to sign that petition. Please make us and our recent guest, Federico Sanchez, very, very happy by adding your name to it, as 34,163 of you have so far. And once again, I will put it in the chat. Spread it far, spread it wide, tell your friends. Let's make this a movement. Okay. I think that's everything I have for you on the Democracy Something That You Do part. So, words of wisdom. Naps are good. Naps are very, very, very good. Yes, I'll be taking one today. If you have an opportunity to take a nap, treat yourself. That's my wisdom today. And vote. Always vote. All right. Kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, at the count of 3, may I please ask for your assistance in helping me to cue the cock? 1, 2, 3. Ah. I heard a deep lumberjack bass in the background there. I have to respond to that. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kits and cubs. Just wanted to do a last check before everything else to be sure, because there's also some polling numbers, and I went to take a look at polling. At 33. My God, I was going to say Polling Canada at 338 polling.com, the polling aggregator here. And for some reason, it is not cooperating with me because I wanted to make the screen bigger to share with you. But I will share it as I have it. It seems that there have been 4 polls during the campaign, which was interesting because for a while it was looking like there wasn't going to be any at all. Here, hopefully, the numbers are big enough for you. But according to MQO Research, who came out on October 6th, they're showing Liberals 43, PCs 40, NDP 13, so Libs +3. Cardinal Research came out 3 days later with a small sample, again, showing Liberals 49, PCs 41, NDP 8, so Liberals with an 8-point lead. Main Street Research, which is the most reputable of the polling companies that went out, they have an A- rating. They came out on the 10th with the largest sample, 1,100, showing Liberals at 52 and PCs 32, with the Liberals with a 20-point average advantage, which would sort of coincide with the preferred premier or premier approval numbers that were released by Angus Reid at the end of September. And the last one, Forum Research, which has a B rating here, came out on the 11th. Also a sample over 1,000, showing Liberals with 47, PCs with 37. So again, a strong Liberal lead, not as strong as the one by Main Street Research, but all four of them showing that word on the ground seems to be, at least from what I've been hearing on the radio reports, that the race might be tighter than expected. But we'll see what that reveals. According to this, if there were to be, how would I put it, looking at seat projections, and of course the computer is stalling on me at this particular moment, because why not, right? If it, going to translate in, I don't think that there's any here that it translate into a seat projections at the moment that I can tell. So yeah, no seat projections here, because sometimes votes can be regionally concentrated in certain areas, makes it such that you can't really get a sense. But yeah, we'll see tonight. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, kits and cubs, I will not be able to do a live results show. I will be on the curling ice tonight, but we will definitely be talking about the results on the show tomorrow. All right, amour et bisous, and we will see you tomorrow. Rest well, have a wonderful day. Make sure that you drink plenty of water, remain hydrated, and we will see you tomorrow.